You still think cancer is mostly decided by family history. The truth is far more unsettling. One of the strongest influences on whether your body can stop abnormal cells before they grow may be living inside your gut right now. Most people are taught to think about cancer as something that strikes, later something hidden in genetics, bad luck, or age. And by the time it appears, the conversation shifts to treatment, surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. But that way of thinking leaves out an important part of the story. Long before a tumor is ever found, your body is already dealing with damaged cells every single day. The real question is not only what happens after cancer is discovered. The real question is what helps your body fight back before cancer has the chance to take hold. That is where the gut microbiome enters the picture. Inside your digestive system lives a vast microbial world that does far more than help break down food. It helps shape inflammation, regulate immune signals, and influence how well your body responds to internal threats. Among these microbes, one bacterium has drawn growing attention from researchers because of its connection to immune strength, gut barrier health, and the body's ability to maintain a more protective internal environment. Its name is Akkermansia muciniphila. I am Dr. Michael Harris. I have spent more than 2 decades in emergency medicine and cancer prevention research, and one of the most troubling patterns I have seen is how rarely people hear about prevention in a way they can actually use. We talk endlessly about cancer after it becomes visible. We talk far less about the daily conditions that may help determine whether abnormal cells are cleared early or allowed to survive. In this video, I want to show you why this overlooked gut bacterium matters, how modern eating habits may be weakening it, and what practical food choices may help support the kind of internal environment your immune system depends on. Before most people ever hear the word cancer from a doctor, their bodies have likely been managing cellular mistakes for years. That may sound alarming, but it is also deeply important because it changes how we think about prevention. Cancer is not always a single dramatic event that begins on the day of diagnosis. In many cases, it is the end result of a long process in which abnormal cells escape detection, survive when they should not, and gradually gain the ability to grow unchecked. Under normal conditions, your body has systems designed to prevent that from happening. Cells are constantly dividing to repair tissue, replace older cells, and keep organs functioning. With that constant activity comes the possibility of damage. A cell can copy its DNA imperfectly. It can become stressed. It can begin sending the wrong growth signals. When that happens, the body does not simply ignore it. The immune system is meant to recognize those warning signs and respond. You can think of this as an internal surveillance system. Its job is to notice what no longer belongs, remove what no longer functions correctly, and protect the larger system before a visible problem appears. That means prevention is not only about avoiding disease from the outside. It is also about strengthening the body's ability to monitor and manage threats from within. This is where many health conversations become too narrow. People often separate digestion from immunity and immunity from cancer risk as if these are unrelated systems. They are not. A large portion of immune activity is closely tied to the gut. The intestinal lining is not just a passage for food. It is one of the most active communication centers in the body, where microbes, immune cells, and the gut barrier are constantly interacting. When that environment is balanced, immune signaling tends to be more coordinated. When it is damaged, inflamed, or depleted of beneficial microbes, that coordination can begin to weaken. Over time, that may affect how efficiently the body responds to abnormal cells, chronic inflammation, and early biological changes linked to disease. So, if we want to talk honestly about cancer prevention, we cannot focus only on genetics or treatment after diagnosis. We also have to look at the daily internal conditions that help determine how well the body protects itself in the first place. One of the most important of those conditions may be the health of the gut microbiome. Now we need to talk about one of the most interesting microbes in this entire conversation, Akkermansia muciniphila. It may sound technical, but the basic idea is simple. This is a beneficial bacterium that lives close to the mucous lining of the gut, the protective layer that separates the contents of your intestines from the rest of your body. That location matters because this is not just a random place to live. It puts Akkermansia in direct contact with one of the most important defensive boundaries in human health. You can think of the gut lining as a guarded border. It allows nutrients to pass through, but it is also supposed to block harmful compounds, inflammatory fragments, and signals that can put the immune system under constant stress. Akkermansia appears to help maintain that border. When it is present in healthier amounts, researchers often associate it with stronger gut barrier function, better metabolic balance, and a more stable immune environment. That is why scientists have become increasingly interested in it. Akkermansia is not being studied simply because it is another good bacterium on a long list of gut microbes. It stands out because it seems to be connected to several systems at once. It may help support the integrity of the gut lining. It may influence how immune cells behave, and it may contribute to a less inflammatory internal environment, which is important when we are talking about long-term disease risk. What makes this especially relevant today is that many people may be living in ways that do not support this bacterium well. Modern diets tend to be low in fiber, low in plant diversity, and high in heavily processed foods that create a very different environment in the gut. On top of that, repeated antibiotic exposure, irregular eating habits, and long-term dietary imbalance may make it harder for beneficial strains to thrive. That does not mean one bacterium controls everything. The gut microbiome is an ecosystem, not a single switch. But some microbes appear to play a more influential role than others, and Akkermansia is increasingly being viewed as one of those key players. When people lose the daily habits that help support it, they may also be weakening part of the internal environment that helps the immune system stay alert, measured, and resilient. So how could a gut bacterium influence something as serious as cancer risk? The answer is not magic. It comes down to a few biological processes that shape how the body manages damage, inflammation, and immune defense over time. The first pathway involves cellular cleanup. Healthy bodies are constantly identifying cells that are no longer functioning normally and pushing them toward removal. Some gut microbes help produce compounds known as short-chain fatty acids when they break down certain types of fiber. One of the most studied of these compounds is butyrate. Researchers have been interested in butyrate because it may help regulate gene activity, support normal cell behavior, and encourage damaged cells to stop multiplying when they should. In simple terms, a healthier gut environment may help the body maintain the signals that tell abnormal cells they cannot keep going forever. The second pathway involves immune training. Your immune system does not operate in isolation. It learns from constant contact with the environment in your gut. Beneficial microbes help shape how immune cells develop, how strongly they react, and how well they distinguish between ordinary signals and meaningful threats. When the microbiome is diverse and supported, immune responses tend to be more balanced and effective. When that ecosystem is damaged, immune signaling can become less coordinated. That matters because early cancer defense depends on immune cells being active enough to notice trouble, but not so inflamed that the whole system becomes chaotic. The third pathway is protection of the gut barrier itself. This part is often overlooked, but it may be one of the most important. The gut lining is supposed to act like a selective filter. When that barrier is strong, it helps keep inflammatory compounds from leaking into wider circulation. When it becomes compromised, the body may face a steady stream of low-grade irritation and immune stress. Over months and years, that kind of chronic internal strain can create a less favorable environment for long-term health. Microbes such as Akkermansia have attracted attention partly because they appear to support the stability of that protective lining. Put these three pathways together and a clearer picture starts to emerge. A healthier gut environment may help the body remove damaged cells, more effectively regulate immune activity more intelligently, and reduce the chronic inflammation that weakens resilience over time. That does not mean food is a cure or that one bacterium guarantees protection, but it does mean the internal environment you build every day may influence whether your body is better prepared to respond when abnormal changes begin. This is where modern life begins to work against us. Most people do not lose a protective gut environment because of one dramatic decision. They lose it through repetition. The body responds to patterns, and many of the most common patterns in modern eating quietly push the gut in the wrong direction. The first problem is ultra-processed food. These diets are often built around refined carbohydrates, industrial additives, low-quality fats, and very little real fiber. They may be convenient, but they do not create the kind of environment beneficial microbes need in order to thrive. Over time, this can reduce microbial diversity and weaken the gut ecosystem that supports balanced immune signaling. The second problem is low fiber intake. Many people eat enough calories but still fail to feed the bacteria that help maintain gut health. Fiber is not just about digestion or regularity. It is one of the main fuel sources for beneficial gut microbes. When fiber intake stays low day after day, the microbes that rely on it begin to decline. That means the body may produce fewer of the microbial compounds that support the gut lining and immune regulation. Another major disruptor is unnecessary antibiotic exposure. Antibiotics can be life-saving when they are truly needed, but they do not only target harmful bacteria. They can also wipe out large parts of the beneficial microbial community. Some people recover quickly, others may take far longer to rebuild. If that rebuilding never really happens, the gut may remain in a more fragile and inflamed state for months. Processed meats are another concern. A diet built around bacon, deli meats, sausages, and hot dogs does more than add poor quality ingredients. It often replaces the very foods that would nourish a healthier microbiome. In other words, the issue is not only what these foods contain, it is also what they crowd out. And finally, there is inconsistency. A few healthy meals cannot fully offset a routine built on foods and habits that keep damaging the same internal system. The gut adapts to what you do repeatedly. That means your long-term pattern matters more than occasional effort. If we want a stronger internal environment, it has to be built with consistency, not bursts of motivation. Now comes the practical part. If you want to support a gut environment that is more favorable to immune resilience, the goal is not to chase perfection. The goal is to consistently feed the microbes that help protect the terrain inside your body. That begins with simple, repeatable foods. Pomegranate is one of the most interesting places to start. It contains plant compounds that beneficial gut bacteria can use to produce helpful metabolites. Oats are another strong foundation because they provide soluble fiber that supports microbial fermentation. Walnuts add fiber and polyphenols, while cranberries contribute compounds that may also favor a healthier microbial balance. You can also build this environment with foods that are more ordinary and easier to use every week. Leeks and onions provide prebiotic fibers that help nourish beneficial bacteria. Green tea adds plant compounds that have been widely studied for their antioxidant and cell protective effects. Even chili peppers may play a supportive role in shaping the gut environment when used regularly in a balanced diet. What matters most is not choosing a single perfect food. It is creating a pattern. A bowl of oats with walnuts and berries. Onions or leeks cooked into everyday meals. Green tea in place of sugary drinks. Pomegranate a few times a week. These are not extreme interventions. They are simple habits that, repeated often enough, can shift the microbial environment in a better direction. Consistency also matters after disruption. If you have taken antibiotics, that may be an especially important time to focus on rebuilding with fiber-rich and plant-diverse meals. And meal timing may help as well. Leaving a longer overnight gap between dinner and breakfast can give the gut a more stable window for rest and repair. The larger message is this: you do not need to control every bite. You need to create an internal environment that repeatedly favors resilience over irritation. Food is one of the clearest ways to do that, not because it works like a drug, but because it shapes the microbial world that helps shape you. Before we close, I want to share something personal. After years of working in emergency medicine and spending time with patients and families in some of the hardest moments of their lives, I have come to believe that one of the greatest failures in modern health education is how little we say about prevention in practical, everyday terms. We wait until people are frightened. We wait until a scan changes everything. Then we rush into the conversation. In my view, that is far too late. What makes this subject so important to me is not the promise of a miracle. It is the reminder that the body is not passive. The body is responding all the time. It responds to stress, to inflammation, to sleep, to diet, to the environment we build inside it day after day. And that is why I believe gut health deserves far more attention in the way we talk about long-term disease risk, including cancer. But I also want to be very clear about something. This information is not a cure, and it is not a substitute for medical care, screening, diagnosis, or treatment. Gut health is one part of a much bigger picture. Cancer is complex. No single food, no single bacterium, and no single habit can guarantee prevention or replace the guidance of your doctor. This video is meant to educate, to help you ask better questions, and to encourage daily choices that may support your overall health. My personal view is simple. If there are safe and consistent habits that may help create a stronger internal environment, those habits are worth taking seriously long before illness forces us to. Not because they give us perfect control, but because they give us meaningful influence. So take this message for what it is. Not fear, not false hope, but a reason to pay closer attention to what your body may need every day. If this video gave you a new perspective, share it with someone you care about. And subscribe for more evidence-based health content designed to help you make informed decisions before a crisis begins.